when we went digging a little bit deeper in the English syllabus, here's what we found. We've got 11 unit syllabus level objectives, which is quite a lot, really. 11 objectives is more than we see in other syllabus areas. It's more than we see in the maths syllabus, for example, that have just 6 objectives. It's more that we see in many of the syllabuses in the arts. So for starters, we're dealing with quite a lot of syllabus level objectives. The other thing I would say is there's been some uncertainty around whether all of these objectives are supposed to be hit every single year or in each unit. And when you read into the syllabus document closely, it says that we're supposed to be assessing each of these objectives every single unit, which for year 11 is going to be a semester or a truncated semester. So that's quite a lot to get through as well. Third problem we've got with these objectives is when we move from these being syllabus level objectives to being unit level objectives, the thing that was supposed to happen there is that the unit level objectives were supposed to become highly contextualised. So for English, for example, in Unit 1, Year 11, looking at perspectives and texts, you would expect to see these unit objectives sounding a little bit different or having some extra context to give them some relevance to that unit. We don't actually see this. You can see straight across Objective 11, for example, using mode-appropriate features to achieve a particular purpose. That is replicated across all of the unit-level objectives and given no extra context. So after doing this kind of examination of the objectives at the syllabus level and the unit level, what I've really come to see is that these are not a powerful set of objectives for organising our work in English. I think what we need to treat these objectives as are more of like an elaboration, a professional elaboration for people who are working with that syllabus, your heads of department and your teachers who are using it at the professional level. What we then move to is, if we're not going to use these objectives to organise our work really, what are the organising frames? So here's where I think we need to look. If you look at, I'm looking at the moment at draft 3, which has the subject matter sitting at 2.5 in the English syllabus. And here they actually go through what they call the core learning, and all of the syllabuses have this section. And you'll see there they've got the list of the different units, you know, perspective and text and culture, for example, is year 11, and these 2 units are year 12. I think this is the guts of our new syllabus, where it says here the organising framework for the subject matter in English is text in contexts, language and textual analysis, and responding to and creating texts. This is what our students will do. This is what they will generate knowledge and understanding around. And when we have a look over at the actual units, so have a look at this unit map here, you'll see that the suggested framing for the assessment pieces is around those exact pieces of the subject matter. What are we calling it? The organising framework for subject matter. That's been employed here at the assessment level too. So for my money, if I was a head of department at the moment, the things that I would of course want to know are, how are my students supposed to be assessed on this? And yes, certainly the objectives are embedded everywhere, but what it's going to come down to are all of the criteria sheets, all of the tasks are going to be spoken about in terms of these 3 elements of the framework. The other big question I'm going to want to know is, what texts are we actually going to deal with there? And of course that leads us on to the next organising principle. As English teachers, the other big organising factor we're always looking for is, what texts are we actually going to teach? And so this syllabus provides it to us at a lot of different stages within it, and it's probably one of our biggest and strongest anchor points. So what we know is that in year 11 we're going to have to do studies of at least 3 texts in depth. And what does it give us? It says it's going to be a complete play or a prose text, so that can be a fiction or a non-fiction novel kind of thing. It says we're going to do a selection of poetry, and it says we're going to do a study of something multimodal. So some people will be putting their film studies in there, some people will be doing things a bit more far out. So year 11 has to cover this stuff, and then there's a whole lot of different kinds of text that you can put in as related material to support that study. Year 12, we have to hit 4 different studies, and it's slightly different. So for Year 12, we're looking at a complete play, which most people are going to pick the Shakespeare, but it doesn't have to be that one. We have to look at an extended piece of prose work. We're looking at a collection of poetry again, and then we've got the multimodal kind of catch-all right at the end there. Just double check I've got that right. Yes. So multimodal, of course, could be feature film, could be documentary, whatever. One thing I would say, a lot of people are going to jump straight to the conclusion that in Year 12, if you've got 4 assessment tasks and you have to do 4 different in-depth studies, that each one of those assessment tasks is going to be based on a different text. There's actually nothing in the syllabus that says it has to be that way. So what I encourage people to do is when they pick up these organising principles, when you say, okay, we know that this study is going to be based around text in context, language and text, and responding to and creating text. We know that our Year 11s have to do in-depth studies of this stuff, and our Year 12 has to do in-depth studies of this stuff. I'd encourage you to kind of stop there and start to do some imaginative, creative work about what your program might now look like. Because if you jump too quickly into trying to make your Year 11 assessment look exactly like your Year 12 assessment, you're going to stop some of that creative process and you're going to close down some of your options. If you start making assumptions about every unit having to tie specifically to a text, you're going to close down some of your options as well. So for me, as an English teacher, those are my 2 big organising principles for where I would start to do my work. And let's see where we go from there.